Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, awesome. Hi, my name is Heather, last name Smith. I am a postgraduate student from the University of Florida here in Jacksonville, Florida. My background is basically in communications, and I did that because I knew that NASA was going to be starting this new adventure and going back to the moon. So I was actually encouraged by a mentor that I met during the last space shuttle mission, STS-135, and she encouraged me to find a way to talk about space projects and space ideas. And that kind of helped me get through the last 10 years of my life.
So when I go up to people and I ask them these questions. They're fishing, they're smoking, they're waiting for the bus, they have the lucky seat next to me by the plane, and that type of thing.
Yeah,
And um, I find that there are some very interesting ideas out there about what we're actually doing in space, and there's a lot of gaps in people's knowledge. And I was wondering if you've ran across the same thing.
absolutely. It has been nice to see that people are actually watching their news and kind of seeing who's doing what and what kind of projects. But the problem is a lot of people don't understand what those projects are and how they're affiliated with our everyday life, whether it involves NASA or not, or like the commercial industry, which has emerged in the last 10 to 15 years. Um, so I think actually the gaps, believe it or not, are actually it's more not just adults, but kids too. They kind of don't see themselves in the everyday aspect of how this space affect my life. But they're more enthusiastic about it than the adults are. So it's interesting. I worked for the Museum of Science and History here in Jacksonville, where I was an intern person and I was hired. And a lot of people just didn't understand not just the space industry, but where we are in our solar system and just our galaxy and the universe in general. So it's it's kind of like trying to get a whole bunch of condensed information all at once to everyone, and it only reaches a certain amount of people at a certain time, a certain period of time.
And it seems like as information has become more and more available, it's become
Mhm,
more and more overwhelming, and the people
mhm.
have to be way more selective in what they pay attention to, and the
Absolutely.
platforms we use do a lot of
Mhm.
that selection for us.
Yes. Yes, it's another whole issue. Um, when I first joined Twitter, that's how I found my space community. That's how I got into NASA Social. That's how I was able to meet 149 other people during the last space shuttle mission. Um, and all of a sudden now it's trying to not get too involved in people who are, I don't know, into harassment and trying to debunk the scientific facts that we have out there. It depends on what platform you're on. It depends on who has access to, again, to that information again. Um, so it is crucial for us as science communicators and like myself as a space science communicator to find a way to make sure that the information out there is precise, inclusive, um, making sure that that information is easy to understand and digest. Because a lot of times we get a lot of catchy headlines, and then behind the headlines, you realize it was one sentence out of a press release. And it's like, no, 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 that's not how you disseminate that information. So it's all of that. And I think all of us are trying to learn for ourselves how to deal with that information too.
I know it's really amazing. Well, I know this first question is wasted on you, but I think it would be um, a good kind of segue into this topic, and that is, did you know that NASA's planning to send astronauts back to the moon?
Absolutely. I have been waiting for this. Ever since the post shuttle era, I, like many others, it's sad to see the space shuttle end, and heartbreaking to see friends lose their jobs, but knew that something was coming, that something better was coming. After seeing the Constellation program being canceled, that was upsetting too. But to see it evolved into something that literally will have everyone hands on deck, everyone needs to be involved in this, not just us as United States citizens, it's everyone. I've been waiting for this for a while. I also feel like we owe it to the Apollo generation to get back there. I wish Gene Cernan was alive today. I wish that he knew that, hey, we're going back and we're going to stay. Um, I wish he knew that because before he passed, he was a little skeptical about the commercial space industry. And I would love to know what his ideas would have been like if he were alive today.
Uh, if you had to guess, what percentage of the U.S. population knows that we're going back to the moon?
So I was actually in Central Florida for the Artemis 1 mission for all three attempts. I was invited again by NASA Social to go. So I would say maybe about 5%.
Okay,
Maybe
okay.
five at the most. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because I saw the amount of feedback from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So depending on, again, the type of population and who's really watching and who's treating the hashtag Artemis or hashtag Artemis 1 or whatever that is, that I would say people know of it. People know we're going back. Also, the introduction of the Artemis 2 astronauts that was just announced 2 months ago. So people know, but it's still not getting to the point that they understand that we're not just visiting and we're not just doing this for fun. We're doing this to actually build there and create there. So I think that hasn't sunk in yet, and it won't really sink in until Artemis 2 actually goes around the moon, hopefully sometime by next year or the beginning of 2025.
Yeah, and actually having those astronauts go and do public
Mhm.
engagement and say, I went
Yes.
when I was going around the moon, starting sentences like
You're
that.
right, right.
I was thinking, whatever.
Yes, yes. I remember like flipping on the TV one day and changing channels and actually saw them on like a TV show. And I was like, oh, good. They actually are doing their, PR rounds, other than, they're in the thick of training right now. But I'm glad that NASA has enough um, understanding of where we've been in the past, understanding that people need to see them in person. They need to see them for themselves. Artemis 1 was fun to watch because I actually really enjoyed seeing the moon, like for that 2 week span of just seeing the Orion spacecraft just going around the moon, just because it's beautiful. But to actually know that there's going to be humans on that spacecraft in a year from now, I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that draws more people in, and it's more attention to other lunar projects that are coming about. That too. I'm really looking forward to that.
Uh, yeah, but 5% of the United States knowing that we're going back to the moon, what kind of challenge does that present for the program, you think?
Huge, huge. It goes back, not okay, it's I know we're busy as adults. We always have things to do, but to me, it goes back to the kids. They have, whether it's coloring pages or making sure that you can see Earth from the International Space Station just on regular like YouTube, or just finding ways that educators or teachers can have as connections to, so they can show their students that type of thing. Making sure parents have what they need in order to show, hey, this is happening right now. Like my parents were able to watch the Apollo missions in their classroom. I'm wondering, will educators do that this time next year? Are they going to have access to watching humans go around the moon? But will they be able to show that to their students, on a larger scale? Um, once more kids are involved, once more kids find understanding that we're not alone on this earth and we're all in this together, then they have an idea telling their parents about it. Like, I'm the kid who told my parents about, hey, did you know this is happening in our industry? Did you know this about the space shuttle? And they're like, no. It's that type of thing. Kids have this kind of like an innocence to them where they're just soaking up a whole bunch of information from anywhere and everywhere. And they have a way of doing that and showing their parents what interests them. And again, the more we're able to show them, to teach them, the more we'll be able to also fill in the technical and just the other things that we're missing within our industry, because we need them in a big way.
Indeed. Well, as you go and become, or as you approach the communication problem about space and everything, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for you to sort of change things and increase that 5% to like 10% or 15% or 20%?
Definitely more in-person presentations and opportunities. So I am a member of the Inspired 24. I've been a member now for 3 months, 4 months maybe. And my first introduction with the group in person was at the Yuri's Night, which is my first Yuri's Night on the Space Coast. And that was extremely fun and invigorating. And I want to do more of that. And I enjoy seeing people being involved and something that's space related that helps people reach their opportunities that they want and also excites me. But I wish we had more of that throughout this country and throughout the world, not just, one time per year. I'm also a solar system ambassador. I kind of just got accepted to that too recently. So that also means I really do have to go and speak to people or speak with people about what's going on within our solar system, within our universe. So that it acts like it's kind of a personal endeavor, but I also feel like we should all be doing that. Like, you're doing this right now with me. Your project is it's people know about it because it's national, it's international. So what you're doing is part of that. And again, we should all be doing it. The more people talk about it, the more people will understand what we're doing.
Yeah, a lot of people I asked that question to, did you know that we're going back to the moon? They're like, not until you told me. So
yeah, and it's another thing. People don't understand why we're going back. They're like, we've been
yes,
there. They're like, we've done it before. I'm like, yeah, but we went and visited and came back. Like, we basically, the 6 times that we went there for a few hours, hung out, got some things, and then left. We didn't build any type of infrastructure to not only stay there, but find a way to keep going. So that's part of that's part of the issues. That's part of the things. Like, we need to establish this now. I mean, our moon is our closest neighbor in space. How can you not visit your closest neighbor in space? It's like us being over here, not ever going back to visit England or Ireland. It's like, it's right there. It's literally just cross a little bit of water and just go back, like hang out, and then you can come back. Just, it's traveling. It's an adventure. It's fun. But yes, there are also some dangerous implications. It is challenging. But once you start establishing the foundation of just being there and learning how to work there. Then we can really get forward to doing the things for Mars that people really, really want to do. Like people are really gung ho for Mars. And I'm like, hold on, let's do Moon first. Let's see what we can do first. Let's establish our communications first. And then we can take what we've learned from the moon and put it to Mars. So it's one step at a time. And that's another whole thing that I think a lot of people don't understand too.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, why were we able to go to the moon from nothing into less than a decade, and then like, you
Right.
know, SLS and Orion is taking,
Mhm.
you know, 2 decades to
Right.
do. So
Yeah, and that's another whole issue. Dealing with our federal budget and things like that. Um, yeah, it's scary. It's sometimes sad knowing that projects can be canceled or postponed or just because our congressional members decide, oh, we shouldn't be spending money on this right now. Um, and that's really out of the hands of citizens until citizens say, no, we want this. We want progress. We want better technical, um, I don't know, like I want a better phone. I want to have a better way to communicate. Um, just it's again, it's step by step, and I don't think people truly understand it until it happens. Um, it's no different than when people see a launch and they understand what's on that spacecraft to get it up there. People don't you don't understand it until you see it. I didn't truly understand the significance of the space shuttle until I saw my final space shuttle launch. Um, yeah, that it you don't understand it until you see it. That's basically
um,
it.
you you kind of hinted at some of the technological spin-offs that we've had from the space program, and that sort of brings about a chicken and egg problem. Not really the same thing, but I wanted to run this by you and get your thoughts. Do we explore to innovate, or do we innovate to explore?
You go on an adventure because you want to go on an adventure. I'll put it to you that way. You don't know what you don't know until you see it, and then you know it. That's how I feel about that. I want to go to Tokyo, Japan, just because I want to go to Tokyo, Japan. I want to experience the culture, the food, the things like that. But if I say, oh, I can't do that because there's no plane to get over there, then that's just it. Somebody needs to create the plane in order for me to get over there, or a long distance train, that type of thing. So it's like I want to go do these things. Let's see us do these things and see what comes out of it, because you don't know what's going to come out of it. Let me preface that the good that's going to come out of it. um, yeah, because you just don't know. Um, but choose the adventure first. Choose the let's go and pinpoint to do this and go find a way to do it. Otherwise we just kind of spin, and I kind of feel like for the last 50 years we've been spinning. Um, I love the International Space Station. I love what it's done for all of our countries to collaborate, but we've done it for 22 years now. We got to take what they're doing there and apply it to lunar concepts, which I know certain people are already doing and have been doing for a while. So that innovation that came from the space station is going to apply to lunar and Martian ideas. We just have to go and do it. It's the adventure first, then the innovation.
When you think about what all this is leading to and what it
Mhm.
could lead to, and you think about, you know, 50 years, 100 years, maybe 200 years out in the future, if you were
Mhm.
had to imagine what 200 years out in the future would look like for humanity,
Mhm.
what comes to your mind?
Hopefully easier travel, um, less accidents, um, I'm sorry, less human involved accidents. Let me preface that. I see more robotics in our lives. Um, there's definitely going to be more AI. We just have to accept it now. Like, I actually turned my iPad off so that it doesn't hear me because I know it is going to start talking to me because it wants to talk. So that type of thing, I believe that that's probably going to happen. Let's see, 200 years ago, um, gosh, we had dirt roads and there was a lot of green and there was a lot of like, land and a lot of things to cultivate and innovate. So 200 years from now, I see things more, again, a little bit more tech heavy, a little bit more, um, I'm looking forward to having like a, instead of talking to you through a laptop, I'm looking forward to uh like a thing built into the wall where I could just press a button and can just go. Like, those type of things. And yes, I do hope we're living on the moon by then. And I only preface that because I've kind of listened to a couple of meetings where current scientists are trying to figure out what lunar sites on the South Pole, lunar South Pole, are they going to go to? And depending on where they go to, not only can that be used for the astronauts there on the moon, but it also help us here on Earth. So I'm looking forward to that too. I don't know what's going to come of that, but kind of excited to see what's going to happen.
Do you think we have people living on Mars in 200 years?
Yes,
And
yes.
just scientists visiting, or do you think we have people raising families and going about their lives?
I can see us raising families on the moon. I can't quite see it on Mars just yet, only because of the distance, time, what it takes to grow an embryo, whether it be in a human or outside of a human. Um, and that, again, I said the Martian aspect that is completely different from anything we've ever experienced here on Earth or what we will experience on the moon. So, um, to grow a human on Mars, that's another bubble that someone's going to have to solve. Because also, I'm like thinking medically, we're still not where we should be, even with the space station. If someone has a, a brain injury on a space station, you can't fix that. You have to bring them back here to Earth. So it's like we have to find a way to be able to adapt to do that on in space, even before we get to the moon, and much before we get to Mars. So that type of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know why it made me think about that. That was a great question.
Yeah, I think this decade is transformational. The
Yes.
90s was to the internet.
Mhm.
I think there's things we're going to be doing in 2030 on a routine basis that in 2020 we couldn't even imagine. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get these little snapshots of what people are thinking
Yes.
now, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but
does that mean you're going to be doing this again in 10 years to kind of see like where we're at?
Oh, well, the only thing I'm committed to right now is finishing out the interviews to the end of 2024, and then see where we go from there. But we'll see. I think looking back at these interviews, 50 years, 100 years from now, will be enlightening to future generations.
It would be awesome. Kind of like, do you remember what it was like from 1999 to 2000, where people are wondering like what we were going to do at the turn of the century? I kind of feel like that's what you're doing right now. It's pretty cool.
Do you remember what people said?
Yeah, they did want flying cars. We did want smaller phones. I do remember that. I think don't I think that the post 9/11 world kind of changed all of that. Like we all ended up having phones after that. I remember I remember just a lot of the computer stuff happening. I remember websites crashing. I remember the because of the like the dot-com bubbles that happened. I remember that. So yeah, a lot of that technical stuff. I just remember like people wanting like all this other stuff. They weren't even thinking about space related. It was just, it was all computers. Like nobody was really thinking robots, but at least I don't remember that. But yeah, I just kind of remember vaguely like everything was about computers at that time. Um, yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's it's not long in numbers, but it's long in experiences, isn't it?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
If you could, would you take a trip to space?
Yes, in a heartbeat. Absolutely in a heartbeat. And I seen the commercial cruise go to International Space Station kind of helped me realize that now anyone can go. If you train, anyone can go now. So thank you to Inspiration 4 Cruise. Thank you to Axiom 1 and 2 Cruise. Um, all you have to do is prepare. I'm actually looking forward to seeing also more scientists go up there, not just engineers, not just pilots, but more scientists going too. Like Jessica Watkins is a biologist by education. So the other one before her was Harrison Smith, which was the Apollo 15. Forgive me, Apollo 15 or 16. I'm forgetting. But he was the pilot. And he was the only scientist to actually walk on the moon. So it's like we need to get more scientists to go up there. To just help out, to do more work, to see things that the engineers and pilots won't have to be trained to do. They will automatically know how to do it. So I so forgive me. I know you asked about us and I know you asked about me specifically, but yeah, I would go in a heartbeat, just to work on things.
But you mentioned Inspiration 4. Did
Mhm.
you like when did you first find out about Inspiration 4?
I had on the TV. It was on the Today Show, and I saw Dr. Cyan Proctor, and that's how I knew something was up. I literally was screaming at the TV because I could not believe that she was being selected and that she was going to space. So that brought joy to my heart because I'd been following her for a while, and she was doing during the start of COVID and throughout the pandemic. She was doing like daily inspirational kind of updates on Instagram, like interviewing people, like you're interviewing me. And she was creating and doing art, and all of a sudden she stopped, and then we didn't hear from her for a while. And I'm like, huh, something's up, but I wasn't thinking about it because I was in grad school, so I wasn't thinking about it. And then I just happened to turn on the TV and see her face on the TV. It was great, like it was awesome. Um, and it's interesting because for Artemis One, during the NASA social, Chris Sambowski was there. He was a part of our group, so I got a chance to meet him, and then I got a chance to meet Dr. Proctor um, during Yuri's night. So they're just everyday people who kind of just, you know, do cool stuff. They're just like you and I. Um, yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to the next mission because I know it's going to be huge. I know Project. Uh, I'm sorry, not Project Dawn. I forgot what it's called.
Oh yeah, Polaris.
Anyway, yeah, Polaris Dawn. Sorry, I said Project Dawn, but yeah, Polaris Dawn. I know that they're training a lot for what's coming. Whatever is going to be happening with them, I know it's going to be huge. Um, so yes, the more we have people, everyday people, to do the training and prepare themselves, like we need plumbers and electricians, and we need that to prepare them to get to go to space because we need them. We need that. Like, yes, you're trained people to do those things in space, but we need that on an everyday basis, especially for moon and Martian missions. So yeah. Sorry, rambling.
No, no worries. But yeah, you mentioned we're going to need all these professions. It's like you could take every profession we have today and either put like a astronaut dash in front or afterwards, or astronaut slash. You know.
Or so like what I the first time I ever heard of Dr. Proctor and a few of the other people that are doing kind of the same things. They're multi hyphenates. They do multiple things. They're writers, artists, creators, some type of science background, communicators, or they're a whole bunch of things, not just pilot and engineer. You know, they build, they create, they're a whole bunch of things wrapped into one. They're like jack of all trades, and there's bunches of people who are doing that, and that's amazing to me. You just have to get them trained and ready to go to space so we can use their skills and apply them to other missions. That's it. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting future. But I think it
Yes.
also means becoming an astronaut. There's like a gazillion paths to it, and
Yes.
you should follow, you take advantage of where you are and your
Mhm,
interest, and don't
mhm.
necessarily try to over optimize to get
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. There's no longer just, oh, I need to apply to NASA every 2 years. It's, well, I can apply to NASA, but I can also, you know, I can apply to whatever SpaceX comes up with, or when Blue Origin starts flying more people and beyond, the line above us. Not to mention the European Space Agency just created their whole crop of new astronauts that they're currently training. So there's no telling what kind of projects you're going to be involved with, whether it's US related or not. So it's like there are people who are just ready, they're ready to go. They're ready to do whatever it is that we need them to do to get them out there to expand what we need to do. That's
Hmm. It's
it.
pretty amazing. Well,
Yes.
those are pretty much the questions I had.
Awesome.
Did you have any questions for me or anything that you want to talk about that we didn't get to?
Um, so were you at the Artemis 1 launch?
I was not. I was watching it at the Space Center Houston. Um,
Ah, okay. How was it? What'd you think?
well, honestly, I after they ran into that first issues and first
Mhm,
hold, it was like
mhm,
about midnight, and I had a
mhm.
long day. So I actually went home, and then
Yeah.
I was actually asleep, and then my wife woke me up and like, hey, they're launching, and so
Oh,
then we turned it on and watched it.
okay. Okay. But you still watch, so that's cool.
Yeah,
Just wanted to make sure you didn't miss out. So does that mean for Artemis 2, will you be coming down here?
I sure hope so. I like to, but you know, I wonder how many holds and kind of reschedulings they're going to have to do whenever they actually have
Yeah.
humans on board. It seems like they'd be even more cautious.
I can tell you right now, I know the due date is November 2024, but I can already tell it's going to be slipped into 2025. And that's because of the technical aspects that they're going through. Like you have a multiple checklist from multiple parts of the spacecraft. Um, so I know certain parts are already built, but I can already tell it's going to slip a little bit. But either way, I hope you're able to come down. I really do. I really
Well,
do because
you know,
I
talking.
was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say seeing the SLS launch last year was incredible. So I'm hoping you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, no, it would be amazing. Especially since I never saw a shuttle flight. This is the closest you would get to actually seeing a shuttle take off
What?
at this point. So
So you really have to come back down here.
In
And
fact, the
I don't
only
oh my god.
rocket launch I've seen in person was Inspiration 4.
No way!
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you gotta come back. You gotta come back. I mean, SpaceX just launched yesterday, and it was cloudy here in Jacksonville, but otherwise I would have been outside watching it because I'm 2 hours north of Titusville, so I'm still able to see it. So I'm used to seeing it. But whatever you do, find a way to be here for Artemis 2. I know there's gonna be millions of other people here because we're launching humans, but I just hope you're able to come down. I really do.
What do you think about the possibilities of Dare Moon launching before Artemis 2?
I say go for it. To me, it's the more people are talking about traveling to our moon, the more it'll be in our conscience. It's instead of it being Apollo this, Apollo that, it's oh, we have Artemis, and then we have Dear Moon, and then we have, all these other projects that are coming about. The more people can see the us creating and getting there, the more people will believe that we're there or will be going there. Yeah. So I I actually have no problem with that. It goes back to when Russians launched their moon missions before Apollo 11 landed. I mean, it's the same kind of concept. It's a competition. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Even with the goal, I have no problem with it at all. So
That's That's awesome. Well, Heather, it was such a pleasure to get to talk to you this morning and to get to hear some of your thoughts and get them captured as part of my project for future generations to look back on and see what people were thinking during this historic decade.
awesome. Thank you so much for interviewing me, for inviting me. We're going back to the moon. We're going back to the moon. Thank you so much.
Well, you have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Awesome. You too. Bye.
Bye bye.